Broadcasting live from a derelict Fry's Electronics, this is Pop Culture Reference, your one-stop reference for all things pop culture. I'm one of your hosts, Seamus Connolly.
And I'm Garrett Strother.
And today we're kind of catching up a little bit on something that we both were talking about on the pod, away from the pod for a while there, and we're catching up on Jordan Peele's Nope today as our main segment, and we're kind of doing it just in time for the release of the digital renting period of Nope, so if anybody needs to catch up or missed it in the theaters, this is kind of the catch-up point for all of us right now.
Oriental's still playing it in Milwaukee, too. AMC's still playing it. Like, you can still catch it.
And we'll probably get into this in the main segment here, but I think it would be an interesting juxtaposition to watch it at home versus at the theater. So maybe we'll have to go back around and give it another shot.
Absolutely. But first, we've got a lot of catching up to do on our news because we had Dieselverse last week, and you know, we were kind of at a staggered release rate as well because of our big episode 100 Vintacular. So first up, we've got Netflix's Bioshock movie has added Hunger Games director Francis Lawrence and Blade Runner 2049 screenwriter Michael Green to its production.
I have been so very tangentially following this Bioshock movie here. I feel like I don't trust Netflix a lot with properties that I actually have like a nostalgic, deeper connection to, like Bioshock. Those games are, I think, masterpieces. All three of them are incredible in their own right, but I am more optimistic after the news of these two joining the project, because for as many problems as the Hunger Games has, or as many problems as I have with the Hunger Games, I feel like there are very interesting, competent moments in that franchise that I think would be an interesting translation over to something a lot more dark and disgusting and gritty, like Rapture and Bioshock and all that. So
yeah.
I am more interested now than ever about this Bioshock movie.
I think 2 is one of the most competently made blockbusters, especially franchise blockbusters of the 21st century. And it, fun fact, still has the longest sequence of continuous IMAX film footage ever in a movie at 50 minutes.
And we talk about the Hunger Games weirdly often, I would say, but we always go back to that second one being like an actual film. Like it's a movie that makes sense, and it's so much better than the intro and the conclusion of that series. It's a little sad that it's kind of buried in the middle there.
I'll point out that Francis Lawrence 2 is the first one he did. He did all of them except the first one.
Oh, well there you go.
Those last couple are like serviceable as well, but 2 is really, I mean, Philip Seymour Hoffman's there.
Oh,
he's
so
being
good.
Great. We're off topic now, but yeah, I think he could bring a really good perspective to the Bioshock story. I think he's the kind of filmmaker that should be working with Netflix because he has an idea of how to do scope and good visual storytelling in a way that their streaming films often lack. And then, of course, Michael Green, Blade Runner 2049 is an absolute
It's so good. It's
run.
Fantastic, yeah.
So, good pairing for this property specifically, I think.
Totally. We should watch this one together. Have you played all the games?
I've played none of the games.
Oh my goodness, Garrett.
The remaster is sitting downloaded on my PS5, just waiting, begging to be played.
Oh, you would adore those games, dude. They are top notch, my friend. You should get on those before this movie comes out, because I can only imagine they're going to be taking a lot of liberties and bridging a lot of weird gaps between the second and the third games that are, again, it's the history of Netflix taking established properties and just like warping them in such weird ways. I think you should get the clean experience before you see it.
Absolutely. And you know how into like deco punk and retrofuturism and everything I am. So
that's why again, right up your alley, my friend. You would love it.
But Seamus, Warner warning.
Oh, is that the stinger?
I hit the big button that runs the siren that we're both hearing right now.
I'm into it. It is blaring in our ears like a nuclear emergency.
So we've got just a whole bunch of stuff going on with Warner Brothers Discovery. If you didn't listen to our pop culture reference last week, go back, listen to it. We're actually coherent, I promise. We recorded it after the Diesel-thon. Warner Brothers Discovery, lots of stuff's moving around over there. Shazam 2 has been pushed from December to March 2023, and Aquaman 2 has been pushed from March 2023 to December 2023, as Warner Brothers Discovery only has enough money to release Black Adam, Don't Worry Darling, and the House Party remake this year. The House Party remake was pulled from its July 28th HBO Max drop date and will now premiere in movie theaters in December. Additionally, Evil Dead Rise, which was also initially planned as an HBO Max release, will debut theatrically in April 2023. The Christmas Story Legacy sequel, however, will still be an HBO Max exclusive, releasing in November. So, just the biggest shuffleboard of what's going to streaming, what's back on streaming, what's going to theaters, because Warner Brothers is just trying to save every single buck that they can.
This is an absolute cluster of just such crazy shuffling nonsense. I'm genuinely sad that the only thing that I was very excited about DC-wise, the Shazam sequel, is being pushed. The one shining light here for me, I kind of mentioned this up top to you before we started here, is that I think Black Adam has the opportunity, has the potential to become the next, like, Morbius. You know what I mean? Like, something so outrageously memeable and strange.
That nobody will go see twice?
I want to go see Black Adam, Garrett. I know that sounds like the stupidest thing you've ever come out of my mouth, but I think it would be funny and weird, and I don't know anything about Black Adam, and I don't necessarily like The Rock that much, but I want to see it, and I'm weirdly glad that is somehow not getting pushed.
I think it's insane that Warner Brothers Discovery is essentially gambling the entire future of the company on Don't Worry Darling, that has way more tabloid press than actual hype going into it, with the whole Harry Styles, Shia LaBeouf, Olivia Wilde, Florence Pugh nonsense that we don't talk about on the show. And then Black Adam, a Rock character that literally nobody but The Rock cares about.
He cares so much.
He cares so much because, don't forget, Seamus, the power hierarchy of the DC universe is about to change.
Honestly, was that promo all leading up to Black Adam being the only thing released in the window that it was supposed to be? They're making us watch Black Adam, Garrett.
Does that come out soon? I'm assuming it comes out soon.
It could. I'm not looking up any promo material.
Black Adam is coming out October 21st. We'll be there.
Why not, man? Why not?
IMAX, the whole 9 yards.
We're the only people in there.
We'll have Black Adam t-shirts that we've custom made. We'll have taped yellow lightning bolts to our chests.
It's gonna be like the new Gentle Minions thing, where people just like go wild, like it's cats or whatever.
But that's the thing, you can't court that audience. Morbius tried to court that audience and it didn't work. Good for Evil Dead Rise, though.
I was about to say, yeah.
Release.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Maybe that'll be a good, because you've still never seen
Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness. You never dip your toes into the Ash versus the Evil Dead show, I assume.
Have not, no. It's on Stars. I've got Stars.
There you go. It's a good show. I think that's a fun excuse to get all ramped up in the Evil Dead again and maybe go see that one in the theater together.
Well, let's move on to still kind of HBO Max news.
Yeah.
Which is that Paramount Plus and Showtime are merging into one service. So now you can access your Showtime content for an additional fee on the Paramount Plus app. I don't know if they're going to be eventually phasing out the Showtime app, but at least they're doing the smart thing and not just saying, okay, we're getting rid of both of these, and then it's going to be a completely new thing. This makes sense, I think, a lot more, frankly, than the merger of equals that's going on over at Warner Brothers Discovery, because Paramount Plus and Showtime are both famously underperforming streaming services.
Yeah, and there's things on both of them that are like really shining and one of the few things drawing people into it. I think that this is a decent move, and I will maybe watch Showtime programming now, because that's just one of them that I don't think I think I got a free trial once, and that was all I got out of it.
Well, the guy who pays for your Paramount Plus is not upgrading to the Showtime tier, so sorry.
Maybe the guy that mooches off your Paramount Plus will upgrade it to the next tier to even the playing field.
So yeah, we'll keep updated on this, see what happens, see if this is going to be a bigger industry trend. I mean, I'm assuming in 2024 when Disney gets full control of Hulu, you know that stuff's all going on to Disney+.
Oh, yeah.
So,
oh, yeah. Inching closer to that battle of streaming services, too. Like we keep saying, it's gonna be a lot more of that.
Finally, Taylor Swift has announced her next album, Midnights, during her VMA Music Video of the Year acceptance speech. It will debut on October 20th. Same weekend Black Adam's coming out. I think this is a really interesting PR move for her because she's been getting a lot of flack lately, both for, I'm sure you and all of the listeners at home heard about, she is the highest user of private jet fuel in the world.
Yeah, she got top of the list, man. That's fun.
And also, she was catching a lot of PR flack for, rightfully, I think, being in the new David O. Russell movie, who is a giant piece of crap.
Yeah.
So, I think that this came at a suspiciously convenient time because all of a sudden, all of those PR concerns are magically whisked away as, man, I can't wait for Taylor Swift's new album. And that's the thing, is that I can't help but be excited for it because she's an artist I genuinely enjoy, and this new concept where it's about 13 sleepless nights that she's had throughout her life, that's a uniquely well-suited topic for that artist. It's just that I wish she would, maybe address some of the actual problems that have been going on that she hasn't spoken a word about.
I don't know, man. Maybe one of those sleepless nights is about how bad she feels about selling out and being like a weird super billionaire with her jets. Who knows?
That feels like all the people that knew about January 6th ahead of time and are now talking about it in their books, like their big tell-all books. That has that energy to me of I'm not going to do it when it's right to talk about it. I'm going to do it when it'll make me money.
Wow, you're sticking it to Taylor right now. Did she say when it's coming out? Maybe she's just gonna try to ride the wave
October.
of good publicity.
Remember with Black Adam,
right? Yes.
Black Adam.
Well, we'll see. I'll definitely listen to it because I've been trying to keep pace with you Swifties out there. I think this will be interesting as maybe almost definitely the first full album of hers that I've listened to that isn't remasters or re-records. So. It'll be interesting to see a truly modern direction that she's going with her music.
I say we Dark Side of the Moon Wizard of Oz it, and we go to see Black Adam. We have our earbuds in with the new Taylor Swift album.
That can only make it better if I'm being real. Give it more heart.
No way it doesn't make it better. I agree. But what say you, Seamus? Talk about some stuff we're actually excited to talk about with Jordan Peele's Nope.
I think it's time.
For today's main segment, we're going to be covering the new-ish Jordan Peele horror film, Nope. So, spoiler-free off the top, which is going to be a little tricky, I think, considering how vague most of the marketing for this movie was. But Seamus, what did you think?
I really enjoyed this newest installment of Jordan Peele's strange sci-fi horror thriller movies that he's just been absolutely bullseyeing every single time. I think this is a great addition to his filmography here as a director, and you just mentioned the marketing. I think it is the most clear marketing that any of his movies has had, if I'm being honest. While I initially didn't appreciate Hulu giving me all those new trailers when they dropped them that visually revealed a ton of stuff that the movie was actually going to be about, even despite that, I had an incredible time with this movie, and I don't know if it would be at the bottom of my 3 for Jordan Peele, if I'm being honest. It might be smack dab in the middle. It might have dethroned Us, if I'm being honest for it.
I agree. I think it's better than Us. I love Us, the giant mess that it is. You and I would see that together opening night.
Yeah, dude. For a while there, I was saying that I put Us above Get Out because I was an edgy little boy. But now, I try. But now I can definitively say, again, I agree with you. Still love Us, love it to death. But Nope is just kind of incredible. I don't know. It worked for me on every level. Visually, it was stunning. The story was, for what it is actually about, when we get into it, it feels like one of the most contained and somehow grounded of his 3 films, and I would really like to see it again. I'm really happy that you told me before that it is actually still playing in some theaters, because that might be the move, man. I thought this was fantastic.
You mentioned the later trailers that were plastered all over Hulu and YouTube and everything give away a lot of visuals that you didn't necessarily want to see, but I do think there are definitely some surprises that are intact. This movie, or at least for me. I don't know if there's been other trailers since the movie came out that have given more spoilers, but I'm gonna have to see this one again to know where it really falls for me within Peele's filmography, because it took the kind of disparate plot thread, A plot, B plot structure of Us and crammed it into a more contained story like Get Out has, with fewer characters, with a certainly smaller scale story, both in area covered and just the kind of story it's telling, that I think this is kind of an equilibrium moment for him as a storyteller. It's combining a lot of themes from both of those films also, I think. Exploitation, ownership, like what constitutes owning a piece of art, what constitutes owning, an animal is definitely a big part of this movie.
Oh, yeah.
He's been able to refocus a lot of the through lines from his other works into this one. I'm really taken with this movie.
I think maybe we should watch it at home. We were both saying that we were interested to see the difference, the juxtaposition between the theater viewing and the home viewing, but maybe we watch it together when it hits the little screen there, and we really hit it point by point, because I am too, man. I am also very taken with this movie, and it makes me feel like whatever Jordan Peele's next project could go anywhere. He could go fully grounded the next time around and make like a very humanized, human-based kind of movie, or he could go right back into the stars there, or right back into the freaky, psycho, brain-swapping Twilight Zone style stories that he is incredible at. And this movie feels like a moment in his career that it's just very exciting that he could go anywhere on the map there.
Twilight Zone, despite his involvement in the actual Twilight Zone on CBS All Access, which is now Paramount
Nearly
Plus.
Forgot about that. Right, yes.
I think Twilight Zone is a really good way to describe his filmography, because they're an anthology of films that deal with very similar themes, that all have a kind of science fiction or supernatural twist to them. I think he's so blatantly inspired by those kinds of stories and so many others. That's a really valuable way to view his filmography, at least right now, is as a collection of films that all kind of enrich each other thematically. At least that's the way they work for me.
Oh yeah, I agree completely, and it would probably make little sense unless it was more of like an actual filmography, but a box set of some kind of collection of Blu-rays, they feel so conjoined to me in, again, that Twilight Zone, Black Mirror kind of way, that I would love to have them all in that kind of perfect little package. Like, I kind of contain them in my own mind.
Seamus, I see your little Cloverfield brain ticking right now. You can't hide from me.
Jordan Peele directs the next Cloverfield, starring Daniel Kaluuya. Oh, I would explode.
One of the 5 chapters of this movie is called Clover, after all.
That is true.
I'm having a hard time not talking spoilers right now. The cast is really good. I think we could just say that. Daniel Kaluuya reteaming with him after Get Out. Keke Palmer, who I've not seen in something in years.
She's killing it.
She's great. She kind of steals the movie, if I'm being entirely honest.
Yeah.
Steven
Yeun, yeah, he's
not in this movie as much as I wanted him to be, but
dude, we are gonna get into it, because because
he's my boy. Although it was almost Jesse Plemons, that role, who also would have been excellent.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh, man.
He had to turn it down for
good.
Killers of the Flower Moon, which I get doing that switch. And I'd probably rather see Plemons in Killers of the Flower Moon.
Plemons will be in the next one. He'll be in the next Peele movie.
And then a bunch of people who I wasn't familiar with before, including Brandon Perea and Michael Wincott, who are both excellent in their roles.
The tech Tech Boy and Cameraman.
Tech Boy and Cameraman, that new
Loved them both.
superhero show coming to Peacock this fall.
Their layer is in a Fry's Electronics.
It's in the UFO. In the Fry's Electronics
I was
exterior.
gonna say it's a superhero themed Fry's Electronics, and that's the cover.
Oh, that's just Chuck though. I think.
Oh yeah, I never
inventing
saw Chuck. Did I just write Chuck?
Also, just want to shout out real quick before I think we get ready to move into spoilers.
Yes, please.
That Ren Schmidt, who I actually mentioned this when you rec centered this a few weeks back, also wonderful on For All Mankind, has a pretty small role in this, but she, I'm glad to see her.
But what say you? We move into spoilers before we both say something that will get us in trouble.
Absolutely. Final thoughts, I guess just go see it. So
go see it, yeah. Well, it's still in theaters if you can, but it'll probably be real kick-ass on your TV anyway, because it is a quality film.
Absolutely. Official spoilers. We open up with our Bible quote, which includes the word spectacle. Real strong thesis right up top from Peele. That's all this movie is about. The two parallel stories, both involving Stephen Yeun's character, Jupe, and his experience with Gordy, and then what transcends into the present day, and then everything that's going on with our other characters, OJ and Emerald, who are Daniel Kaluuya and Keke Palmer and their little motley crew. It's all about the way that we exploit ourselves and what the lengths we'll go to and the danger we'll put ourselves in for spectacle. It also is a movie that kind of gets mad at the audience for watching it.
Yeah, it's so steeped in those themes of what or who you can treat in a certain way to gain that spectacle, to gain that upper hand in a system that has been pretty early on talk about their great-great-great-grandfather who was the nameless horseback rider in the first film ever produced or something like that. And
okay, Seamus, then
the first moving picture, excuse me,
Edward Muybridge. They wanted to see. It's a famous story. They tell it in the movie. There was a bet about whether or not a horse's forelegs at any time when it was in full gallop actually were all off the ground at the same time. They devised a series of cameras along a racetrack that all fired in quick succession, therefore being able to capture a moving image of the horse and therefore concluding also, yes, all four legs of a horse in full gallop do leave the ground at the same time.
And that was our pop culture reference for this week. Oh, goodness. Yeah, they take the theming of them being the descendants of this man and their business in show business with the horses, and it goes all the way through with Jupe and Gordy, and I guess we're in spoilers, the alien spaceship. Guys, that's aliens. It's all aliens. I know that was also revealed in all those Hulu things that I was talking about before, which I was a little sad about.
We've been saying it's aliens since the first poster, to be
well,
fair.
Yeah, that's true. It was a cloud in all the first ones, man. I was ready for it.
It's a cloud in the movie, too, isn't it?
That's true. For a good while, that cloud does not move. It's so good.
I want to go back and I want to watch for the cloud now. That's one of the big things about rewatching it that I'm excited about. Because they only figure out it's the cloud, at least 30 minutes into this movie. Maybe more.
Yeah. All of his movies are based a lot, I also think, in things are right in front of our faces the whole time, right up until the end. So I can only imagine that's going to be there in the background, unmoving.
Like a monkey's paw.
The monkey's paw anthology. I want to talk about also one of my favorite parts, including part of the cold open, all the Gordy carnage that is in this film. That is maybe some of the most disturbing things I've seen in a movie in a long time.
It's pretty wild. It's definitely not the way I expected this movie about UFOs to begin. Yeah, sitcom monkey goes bananas on castmates.
That's not okay. He rips these people apart, Garrett. It's not funny. The shoe standing on its tiptoe, what do you think about that? Because it's also, that shoe is displayed on its tiptoe in Stephen Yeun's creepy Gordy dungeon that he has in his office.
For people who might not have seen it, Stephen Yeun's character, he was a child actor on this series back in the 90s, and he witnessed the attack but was spared. I've seen a lot of different interpretations. The way I immediately thought about it following the movie was OJ talks about bad miracles.
Oh, okay.
Is the shoe standing on its end in an impossible way? Is that a bad miracle? And
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of other interpretations, which I feel like, not that they're incorrect and I'm not discounting them, but I think they come from a more like CinemaSins-esque
Right, like
viewpoint.
it's shoes can't land that way or whatever.
They're like, it means that his narration is unreliable, and therefore we shouldn't believe anything in the flashback. And I'm like, I don't know.
That sounds wrong to me.
That
if
sounds
I'm being
wrong
honest.
to me. I think there are definitely other ways that we see the trauma of that moment manifest later in Jupe's life. Like, I mean, the really famous one that keeps getting pointed out is the film canisters on the 35mm cameras look exactly like the eyes of the alien merchandise that he sells later at his theme park.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I did not clock that one, but that is cool. Also, I've been thinking about the shoe in terms of like maybe it's the complete opposite of unreliable narrator. It's so burned in his head that this one bizarre detail of the carnage is so ingrained in him that he has to like have this shoe to look at in his museum, and it solidifies a big part of that moment where Gordy is like reaching out to him after he's maimed two of his co-stars before he's shot by the police. And maybe the idea of like that opening up that humanistic side of whatever or whoever is being exploited in their position, when you do try to, release that, when you try to become that human, that non-object that you're treated as, that's when your life ended, or that's when your ultimate doom is at hand, and you just keep going. You just have to keep being Jupe and open up a theme park and never stop your sideshows, because that's the only thing that people are gonna let you do and have that kind of success and fame for what you are.
And that he seems to clearly feel like, through his being spared by Gordy's rampage and his connection with Gordy, that he feels like he can tame this predatory force in the UFO. He can have this kind of special connection with it, that he's exempt from its rampage. That's the thing, that's the hubris that cost him his life later.
Yeah, exactly. He still views him, he's living in this past of who he was. Emerald says it when they go into his office, he's like, oh, you're the Asian kid in that one show, and he's like, yeah, that's me. He's kind of like owning it a little bit, and then
he's
he
proud.
turns...
Yeah,
yeah,
weird.
Exactly. And then he ends up turning into that exploitative figure in the eyes of this untamable creature from space, or I guess wherever. They don't really get into that. He is maybe one of my favorite parts of this movie, and that's what makes his like 1,000-yard stare SNL monologue, where he's like, they're cutting back to his memory of his co-stars being beaten to death. It's so disturbing and so creepy, and it's maybe one of the most effective parts of that movie for me before we get into more of the alien stuff.
Absolutely, because it feels like that's a commentary on child actors to me, of like, this kid, you said it a little bit earlier, this kid who was exploited in his own way and went through this awful, dangerous moment for the sake of entertainment, is now for the rest of his life forced to regurgitate the single most traumatic moment of his life. Also, the fact that so much of his identity of his theme park, Jupiter's Claim, and his name, Jupe, when his real name is like Ricky or something, all comes from another role that he had before he was on Gordy's home. Again, like, forced to coast by on this childhood nostalgia kick that others have, so that he's a dancing monkey,
Yeah, exactly. What a good part of that movie. And I mean, like, we should probably touch on the UFOs of it all, huh? And
yes.
And about like the main ideas of, I don't know, I love how different OJ and Emerald are handling and reacting to so much of what the main story is when the UFO finally gets really involved.
But how believable they are as siblings, too. They're completely different characters that still feel related.
Yeah, their interactions together are great, and a lot of the humor in this movie is coming from both of them, and Daniel Kaluuya's deadpan tone in a lot of what's happening. He's very stoic through so much of this horrific stuff.
He's so funny in this movie, which is a really weird thing to say. He's like the action hero of this film. In a lot of ways, the only one with any kind of sense about him. He's Nope all the time.
The ultimate straight man in a movie of insanity. Everyone else is kind of like, okay, we're on board. We're doing this alien capture thing. And he's just like, it's like his day job almost. He's just going along with it.
He's the straight man that wears bicycle reflectors on the back of the hood of his Scorpion King bright orange hoodie.
The ultimate plan to capture this thing on film was also so interesting to me. The cameraman coming through with his like archaic custom crank film camera.
I think, and I'll have to look this up, it's a IMAX camera rigged to shoot hand cranked.
It looks like such a piece of equipment. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, at least modeled after something like that.
Yeah, hand-cranked IMAX camera. Crazy.
Yes, I'm sad about his demise, but it has to be for the theming, you know? It has to happen.
He also did it to himself.
Yeah, that's true. Everybody warned him to not. I guess his radio was on. I don't know. He should have known better. Don't do that stuff.
He knew not to go out and look it in the eye, and he did it for the perfect shot, the impossible shot. The bad miracle.
Yeah, I thought his character specifically was incredibly intriguing, and again, a very straight man to like an angel, a different character that kind of just like folds themselves into their adventure. I wish I saw more of them together, if I'm being honest.
They had a really good dynamic when they're sitting there under that tent with their digital camera and their film camera, and it's very much the old school analog cinematographer and the young, geeky tech boy. Honestly, almost similar to the dynamic between Emerald and OJ. They have this kind of
that like impractical versus practical idea of what they're actually doing there at the ranch together. It's very fun to see them all kind of bounce off each other with those similar kind of character strands between each other.
Also, we should probably talk about the names, because I only know what to do with a couple of them, and I want to know what you make of them.
You're talking about the title card?
No,
names?
I mean the names of the characters. They all have fascinating, weird names, and OJ and Emerald feel pretty straightforward to me. Like, those are both spectacle names, right? And
Sure.
OJ, of course, a reference to O.J. Simpson. Emerald has to be, especially considering the fact that Jordan Peele calls this out as, not the name, but the film being directly inspired by The Wizard of Oz, has to be Emerald City. The Oz's great palace that he's built, that's all a facade for the scared little man hiding behind the curtain, which we'll get back to curtain imagery later, because I've got some stuff to talk about with that. But like Antler's Holst, I don't know what to do with. I guess like there's like there's a predator prey kind of
maybe
hunter hunted with antlers. Angel, that is kind of straightforward because of how angelic by the end of this movie the UFO turns out to be.
Yeah. Also, I took that as like he does become so much more vital to their entire plan from the beginning than I thought his character would be initially.
Totally. I mean, he's their guardian angel in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Looking over everybody.
He's the angel in the chair doing his computer stuff.
Angel in the chair. And then Jupiter,
Do you know anything about Roman mythology? Is that Roman mythology?
Yeah, Jupiter's Roman. He's Zeus, the head honcho.
Well, there's something there. There you go.
Unless you have somewhere else that you want to direct us, we could talk about curtain imagery real quick.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Because the thing that really stuck out to me was when Jupe is hiding under the table from Gordy, which is a great deal of the shots of the Gordy's home sequence are from Jupe's POV. There's this tablecloth hanging down in front of Jupe's face that is taking up the top maybe like quarter of the frame.
Right, yeah.
And it seems to be, to me, the thing that keeps him from making direct eye contact with Gordy. Basilisk rules from Harry Potter that doesn't set Gordy off into a rage against him. But that image of this strip of fabric across the top of the frame is repeated at the end when we see from the UFO's perspective after we learn that it's not a vessel but in fact a organic entity. Its own like unfolding angelic
big
octopus dove body.
Yeah, like the unfurling of a massive sail mixed with like the movements of a jellyfish.
Yeah, from its point of view, we also see a strip exactly the same place as that tablecloth from Jupe's perspective, which further to me solidifies this cycle of going from trauma to the person who is exploiting, who is the danger, who is, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's they're all their points of view are they're separated by this imagery, but it's just to denote who is. It's not like worthy of eyesight or eye contact almost, but it's like it does make that separation a little more literal when they're physically, even if it is by that thin veil, which I mean might just be another metaphor there, Garrett. It does separate them in a way that like it keeps Jupe from Gordy ostensibly in that sequence before it ends. It keeps OJ and his horses safe from the UFO when they're like covering their eyes with these sheets and blinders. I think it's fantastic.
There also seems to be, kind of in a similar vein to me, some connective tissue between the fact that it's the balloons popping by floating upward into the light in the opening that sets Gordy off, and then the fact that the balloon, literally of Jupe, going up and being the thing that ultimately kills the UFO, which is named Jean Jacket by that point in the film.
Right, Jean Jacket, the coolest UFO name of all time.
I don't know necessarily what to do with that information, but it's a thing I noticed.
No, it's definitely interesting. I mean, so much connectivity between all this. As we're talking here, I really, really want to watch it again now, because I feel like there has to be something more than just a genuinely horrifying sequence when Jupe's kids dress up like the aliens to once again get the jump on who they think that they... Did you absolutely crap your pants when that happened? Because I did.
It's so scary, Seamus.
Yeah, dude.
It's so scary. But it's really wonderful because it's also the biggest laugh of the movie is when he says nope and starts walking away.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. That sequence is perfect. It's so good because it's genuinely horrifying and, again, so funny by the end of it. It's also really sad when you think about how those kids got swallowed up in those alien costumes ultimately.
Yeah. It is sad.
Maybe the other most horrifying sequence of the entire movie is the inside of... Oh, my God. Not since the dumb Tom Cruise remake of War of the Worlds have I felt so uncomfortable about a UFO.
One of the most disturbing things I've seen in a movie in years.
Yeah, just the claustrophobia, the way that it's shot so tight in the weird intestine canal thing of this UFO, and just match that with the distant wailing of everyone being like sarlacc digested inside of it as it like passes overhead is just disgusting. It's horrifying.
Yeah, it's the 1-2 punch of you being inside it first and seeing how tight everything is, seeing like when the woman runs into the horse skeleton when she's sucked up next to the decomposing horse, and hearing all of the screams from everywhere inside the UFO, then to when we cut back down to OJ on the ground, and then hearing their screams and knowing full well what the horror inside is that's just kind of like a passing sound effect as the UFO glides over.
It's so upsetting. That and the Gordy stuff between him mauling people on the set and the interior of that UFO. It's in a filmography of very disturbing imagery throughout Jordan Peele's career now is gonna stick with me forever now from Nope. It is really upsetting.
I think that's one of the things that was so powerful about the first trailer that we saw was he almost gave us too many things to latch onto and be like, wait, this can't be just an alien movie.
Yeah,
which I think was a really effective, and I honestly almost wondered while watching the movie how much of those things he wrote in to kind of give the marketing that ability to misdirect. You know, you see glimpses of the flying saucer in the clouds or whatever, and things getting levitated up, like Keke Palmer gets sucked up in the trailer.
Yeah.
But you also see things like a bloody ape fist. And
dude, I swore that was gonna be an alien
know.
reveal. Oh, that was well done. That was on purpose. Yeah. But man,
it's the same thing with you see the kid's mask just like peeking over one of the fences in the stable. Even you see his co-star who was mauled by the ape, her veil flutter up for a second. You see the deformities of her face, and like think that might be something. Sprinkles throughout this movie that make it feel so much more existential and so much deeper than just like, oh, UFO scary.
Totally, absolutely. He even, does the classic horror movie angle of like, at least one of the main characters is logistically invested in some kind of like financial, I guess that's a major part of it. They're all trying to kind of make money or make a name for themselves with the footage, but just OJ's unforgiving, unrelenting, like, I need to go like take care of the horses, like it's the ranch. I know there's like an alien spaceship who lives there now, I guess, but it's the ranch. I gotta go in the rain blood to feed and let the horses out, even though they're getting sucked up here.
At the very beginning of the movie, before we know anything's wrong, his father gets a nickel through his head.
Dude, so sad. Gets sniped with a quarter. That was pretty brutal even. Just like the way that the alien spaceship ejects non-natural material in that way is just such a weird, upsetting thing.
Which makes me wonder about Antler Holst's camera. And if that's because I'm assuming it didn't get digested, so wherever the UFO crashed, I wonder if that is somewhere to be, because it kind of like explodes and unravels and crashes to the ground after the balloon goes up.
Old Antler Man, he wasn't in there for that long. He wasn't fully digested. I guess it gets exploded, but still, he could be in there somewhere.
I really enjoyed Angel's solution of wrapping himself in barbed wire so that it gets rejected. That he gets rejected.
I was so scared that our boy was gonna die. I'm gonna be honest. He made it. I was sure he was gonna be done for by the end.
That definitely seems like they decided that the character was so endearing that they're like, okay, well maybe we keep him.
They shot two versions and they were just like, he's just too likable. Damn it.
Well, I'm very interested to see. Jordan Peele this week has actually hinted that he's not done in the Nope world.
Oh,
and so I'm really curious to see what kind of different perspective, because there is a million different ways you could kind of go about that. I think you could do a more of a straightforward sequel or continuation with the characters that we've learned about in this movie, but also there are characters who are kind of one-offs who, I hate to do this because I know you're just gonna jump right on board, but kind of in a Cloverfield-esque way, that there's a lot more to be mined from them specifically. And honestly, this almost reminds me more of things like World War Z or The Walking Dead, which have little glimpses of a story of a seemingly insignificant character that is a one-off, like the guy in the tank in the pilot of The Walking Dead.
Sure, yeah.
Or Matthew Fox's one-shot character in World War Z, who's supposed to have this whole subplot that got cut.
Oh, so sad.
The guy with the chrome helmet from TMZ, I feel like he is somebody who might be. Like, how does he know to be there? What's going on with him?
I feel like that's almost the angle I was thinking of. It's like what happens after this. Like, they were trying to keep it under wraps the whole movie. By the end of it, it was kind of unraveling while they were having their showdown. And then by the real end of it, like, the cops are there, the officials, the government are going to be able to, get their hands on whatever they were holding out there. The idea of, like, TMZ-ifying those kind of encounters and like what that would do to the world, and Emerald's place in that world where maybe she has that experience. I don't know. I feel like that would be an interesting way to go about it. Dude, put them all in that van with Angel and you got yourself a Scooby-Doo going.
Oh, the scene where OJ is trapped in that van.
Oh, and the music is slowly playing because it's like hovering right above him.
That's an all-timer. That is
totally
an
so
amazing
good.
Sequence.
So tense. Shot immaculately and so grossly with all the blood rain thing going on. It's great.
The fact that you can milk several minutes of tension out of, do I get out of the car?
That's just masterwork right there. That's horror masterwork.
I can't wait to watch this again. The more we talk about it, like you said, the more I can't wait to just pop it on.
Yeah, man. I think a triple feature of just like really disturbing, well-made movies is gonna be on the docket at some point. Specifically, I think I've only seen both Us and Nope once, and I think Nope is higher on my rewatch list for sure.
Me too, definitely, because I think Us, even though there, I'm sure, is tons to unpack, it's also such a mess that I don't feel like the threads are as like the payoffs aren't as
that's true,
rewarding. Again, there are things that we haven't even talked about in this that pay off really well in the third act, like the idea of, again, those successive cameras being the first moving image, the first film, and then you cut to the end where there's the wishing well photograph turning the wheel and getting all the different shots of the UFO, the final payoff. The Akira slide, that's not even a payoff, but we just haven't talked about it yet.
Real badass either way. Loved it.
We were talking about the analog versus the digital, the technology versus the natural, and the fact that the third act shows OJ riding a horse and Emerald riding a motorcycle. I think that's very indicative of that dynamic.
It's a very good movie.
I'm getting jazzed. I love when we do this show and we just get more jazzed talking about the movie.
Oh, yeah. I think this one has also been, like, burrowed in both of us, because we haven't really talked about it outside the show, and we have both wanted to, I think, because
absolutely
it is maybe one of my favorite movie-going experiences this year, and I can't wait to see it again. I can't wait to see the next one. I would love an extended cut of some kind. I don't know if does he ever do those? Like a director's cut?
And this isn't like when most people say, there's like a 4-hour cut of Endgame out there. That's son, that's called a working cut.
Yeah, like, exactly.
Different. But he said there was a 3-hour cut of Nope.
I would have watched all 3 hours. I would have loved 3 hours.
So I hope Blu-ray, fingers crossed. Also sounds like there's going to be, which seems to be the standard now, which I'm really, really glad about, the IMAX expanding ratios on the Blu-ray.
Always appreciate
this in IMAX, so I'm happy to hear that.
Where should we go from here?
I think we go to our pop culture reference.
I guess so. Like most incredible movies, we're boiling it down to, damn, this is a good movie. We really got to watch it again. This week's pop culture reference is Day for Night. Day for Night is a filmmaking practice designed to create exactly what it sounds like, shooting nighttime sequences in daylight to make shooting easier. A common practice involves increasing contrast, adding a blue tint, and underexposing the image to achieve the desired effect.
Sometimes additional or alternate steps can be taken, including optically or digitally altering the sky to add stars to the moon, or adjusting the method slightly to shoot at dusk. While a common practice for decades, the technique is often criticized, especially if executed poorly. A common tip-off for a day-for-night shot scene is visible long shadows produced by the sun.
Today's main segment, Nope, features extensive sequences shot day for night with revolutionary camera setups. Cinematographer Hoyte van Hoytema designed an elaborate camera rig which combined a 65mm digital camera's infrared information with Panavision Systems' 65mm film information. He had employed a similar technique when shooting Ad Astra's lunar sequences by using 35mm camera and an infrared camera on a decommissioned 3D rig.
The infrared darkened the sky. Similar to how using a red filter on black and white film turns blue sky black. However, because digital cameras are not able to match IMAX film's detail, for the sequences shot in IMAX, the frame had to be digitally heightened. This turned out not to be a problem, however, as the sky in these sequences needed to be digitally replaced anyway. Now, we didn't really talk about this too much during our main segment, if at all, Seamus, but this new Day for Night sequence really does look incredible. I didn't even think it was Day for Night, that's how good it looks, and it has
I was gonna say, I had to learn that post-viewing, more or less, because I was so engrossed in it all. It was so well done, and I'm really used to noticing Day for Night when, like you said, when it is done a lot more poorly, but this was masterfully done. This new technique is something else.
It's also one of those things where the scope of it makes it more impressive because you're seeing miles at a time.
That level of realism, naturalism in filmmaking involving like this level, this scale of sci-fi thriller. I can't think of another film like that has so successfully, expertly done that. Because
Yeah,
I can pick out a few that are pretty damn bad, but none of them that are this good.
That's one of the things I'm really excited for, because like you, I didn't realize until after the movie that it was day for night, and rewatching it and watching those sequences and looking at them as day for night sequences, and with this insane camera rig in mind.
Oh, it's gonna be incredible all over again. I can't wait.
Also makes me want to rewatch Ad Astra, a movie I don't think you've seen.
I have not. I would love to, though.
Let's do it. I just got the Blu-ray.
There we go.
Watch.
Boys' night.
Boys' night. Just us and Brad Pitt.
Perfect.
But what do you say we save the rec center, Seamus?
I think we should. Let's do it.
Save the rec center! Now it's time to Save the Rec Center, where we give you our weekly recommendation. Seamus, what do you got this week?
I'm back to the video games, Garrett. I had my little break, but I have been digging deeper and deeper into the Death Stranding director's cut that I haven't even scratched the surface of, I don't think, at this point. I'm like halfway through the main story, and I've absolutely loved the original version of this game when it came out years ago, but this is like a completely new game, phenomenal on the PS5. There are so many new little extras and major additions that are just like, I don't even know how something that big could be cut from an original game with that idea and scope, but it's game-changing, man. And I know it's not really for everyone, and I know you've got a million things on your list to play, but it's like a
Bioshock.
Yeah, Bioshock's
2.
up there now. Oh man. Oh, it's getting longer and longer, but it's like meditative. That's how I can almost describe it. It's like almost like a real nature walk. The cinematography that they put into a game like this, it's breathtaking, and it's so bizarre, and the weirdest celebrities in the world are the main cast, and I highly recommend it to you, my friend. I think it's free on the upgraded PS Plus, but
It is. It's just that I have to wait until I have enough time and enough space on my PS5 to hold the thing.
Yeah,
while I
that's
kind of chip my way through it, you know.
You also have to put aside like 10 hours at the beginning of this game to get into it, or else you might fall off the thing there. But it's so worth it, Garrett. I promise you.
Well, some weekend when I've just got all the time in the world and I've actually played all the things I want to play.
Yeah, after you've played all those Metal Gear Solid games that have been collecting dust on your shelf, then you can pop in Death Stranding.
Now with this, the remake or the remaster of the first couple is like...
Don't you dare say those words out loud, Garrett. That is a lie, and I will not get my hopes up again. I will not do it to myself.
I just read an article about it this week, Seamus.
Do you know how many articles I've read, Garrett? I can't get hurt again like this. It's every year. But this isn't a Metal Gear Solid cast. What do you have this week for the Rec Center?
My Rec Center this week is The Last Witch Hunter starring Vin Diesel.
Get out of here. Shut up.
It is, however, very different movie. Something I had always heard really good things about, wanted to see, and it popped up on HBO Max. And I was like, you know what? Now sounds like a good time to watch Postcards from the Edge, directed by Mike Nichols, written by Carrie Fisher. A kind of fictionalized version of her own life and her struggle with addiction and her complicated relationship with her mother. Meryl Streep plays the kind of Carrie Fisher role. Shirley MacLaine plays Debbie Reynolds better than Debbie Reynolds could play Debbie Reynolds.
Right. Nice.
Dennis Quaid seems like he's probably playing Harrison Ford, which is not a great look for Harrison Ford.
Oh boy.
But just an absolutely all-star cast. My boy Gene Hackman, he's there.
Oh,
you know I love
hell
him.
Yeah.
It's just a really charming, fascinating, surprisingly deep movie that has a lot of meta text, not only in the way it's kind of about Carrie Fisher and her life, adapted from her own novel of the same name, but also it's a film that kind of slowly breaks down its own layers of reality one at a time. Honestly, I feel like I'm glad I watched this in the context of I recently finished up The Rehearsal on HBO Max.
Oh.
And this idea of the way that acting and real life and fiction, and they all just kind of intertwine themselves to the point that we get confused about who we are and what we stand for, and do we mean what we're doing, or is everything just acting? And a lot of those same questions are being asked by this 30-year-old movie, and I think that it's a really rewarding watch, especially if you go in not underestimating it, not just going in being like, oh, I'm gonna watch this, comedy. Because it's Mike Nichols. Dude did The Graduate. He knows what's going on. It's not like Carrie Fisher wrote a really good script, they hired really good actors, and then they just shot it. There's a lot going on thematically and behind the scenes, and I think it was a really rewarding watch.
Yeah, that sounds fascinating. I've never really heard of that film before, but that is genuinely, I would love to give that a shot. I know Carrie Fisher's got a lot of stories. Yeah. I'm sure she lays them out pretty bare in this, especially if she was the writer of the book and the adaptation here. Yeah, I'm in, man. That sounds great. HBO Max, right?
HBO Max.
Right
well,
on.
You can do it well. Get them while it's hot,
Got it. I gotta race the clock. But that sounds genuinely really interesting. It sounds pretty sad, if I'm being honest. But I mean, like you said, if there's that balance of that humor and reality there, I think that's great. That's just what I'm looking for. But I think that wraps us up for our show this week. If you want to reach the show on social media, it's at @PCR_podcast on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. It's weird that I put TikTok first this time. That was an accident.
Hey, that's good, though, because you can catch up on our Vin Diesel content.
Yes, do that. And if you want to email the show directly about Vin Diesel, then you can email us at popculturereferencepod@gmail.com. Like, subscribe, do all the interactions, comment on our stuff, tweet at us. We will respond to you personally. Anything that you can do engagement-wise that'll help the show out immensely.
All three of us will respond. The Pop Culture Reference account, you and I, all in a little triangle.
Yes, exactly. And we'll rope in Guillermo del Toro to talk about Death Stranding and Nightmare Alley when we can. That'll be a special episode 150 for all the Patreons, all the Twitter followers.
Well, next week, we're actually kind of talking about a thematically similar film to this week's, something also we've been meaning to catch up on, but Dieselverse kind of put into a little bit of a postponement, is the new Predator film Prey, which you can stream right now on Hulu, so make sure you check that out before you come listen to us next week.
Can't wait. Love the Predator movies. I haven't seen this one yet, but I'm thrilled to get into it with you next week, man.
Well, everybody, we will see you next week.
Adios, amigos.